Does your self-talk about sex sound anything like that
What kind
guy?
of a man are you?
If so, let's talk about it. Hey guys, Brian Mahoney here from psychologicaled.com. So why does changing self-talk help? If you're like most guys, when you talk to yourself in a really harsh or negative way, your body reacts like it would if someone else was saying that stuff to you. You tense up, you get anxious, your nervous system might go into that sympathetic fight or flight mode. When that happens, you lose your erection. But don't just take it from me. Jim Loehr, a performance psychologist who's coached everyone from Olympic gold medalists to Fortune 100 executives, says, I came to understand that the ultimate coach for all of us in life is that private voice. And that private voice can be brutal. It can be a detriment to being the best it can be. The brain listens to everything you say. Loehr would have his athletes wear microphones and articulate everything they said to themselves while competing in an event. Then, in playback, he'd pay particularly close attention to what they said to themselves when they made mistakes or if they lost. What he found was that bad self-talk led to bad performance. Self-esteem psychologist Nathaniel Branden always said that anytime someone is fundamentally against themselves, just watch the downstream symptoms arise. He'd see people with all kinds of different issues, addictions, anxiety, depression, and Branden found that most of the time, if he could help those people get on their own side, go from the conflict to being on their own side, those symptoms would disappear on their own. Have you ever heard of a three-legged race? Like they used to have at county fairs or they used to have on special field days at school when I was a kid. You'd take two people and tie the left ankle of one person to the right ankle of the other person. Then they'd try to run a race that way. Think of what it would be like to try to run in one of those three-legged races if your partner was just yelling at you and trying to punch you. Probably not that much fun. And you probably wouldn't get very far. In terms of the way some guys treat themselves when it comes to sex, that's kind of what they're doing. And it's not just sports or general psychology. Mojo, the app for guys dealing with psychological ED, devotes a whole section to helping guys deal with what they call their inner critic. So, if the first link in the ED chain is that internal dialogue, great. What do you do about it? I'll always say that your best bet is to work with someone like me or a skilled sex therapist. I don't think you can ever really beat working live one-on-one with a real person. But assuming that's not an option for you, or you just want to get started right now, I'm going to take you through a few different approaches you can take. And I'm offering more than one because different things work for different people. An approach that totally lands and works great for one guy won't work at all for the next. So with any luck, one of these options will be a good fit for you.
I want to make it clear that I am not a psychologist or doctor, and the information provided in this video is for general informational purposes only.
Okay, here we go. First up will be the method that Jim Loehr, the coach I mentioned earlier, uses. This is going to be particularly good if you tend towards the more analytical, less contemplative end of the spectrum. This is going to be about straight repetition for reprogramming. The first step is awareness. Becoming really aware of that scolding, derogatory voice and what it says to you specifically. Write down the specific negative things that you say to yourself about sex, about yourself, when you're in bed, any results from being in bed. And it's really important to actually write those negative things down. That's step one. The second step, make a new script. Write it out by hand, what you would actually want to hear if you had a great coach in your head. When you're in situations when you're in trouble, what would you actually want to hear someone saying to you that would help you? Write that out by hand as a script. And Loehr is very specific about writing it out by hand. Third step, repetition. Practice it. Practice it every chance you get. Hold yourself accountable for internalizing that new script. When you do this with repetition, Loehr would say that you're setting up a whole new set of neural pathways. The more you use it, the more automatic it will become. The more automatic it becomes, the better you're going to feel. And most likely, the better your erections are going to be. Okay, I realize 99% of the guys out there are probably going to watch this video and immediately forget all about it. Fair enough. But keep in mind that this stuff can really work if you're willing to put in the time, the repetition, and you're really open to change. Trust me on this. It really feels better if you're actually digging in and taking some good action to move in the direction of change. Knowing that a lot of times that even if the approach you're taking doesn't actually work, you may find an insight along the way that takes you in a direction that actually does. The Mojo Method. The Mojo app has a guided meditation where you set up and practice a second voice in your head. It's good. I recommend the app, and it has dozens or even hundreds of other tools to help guys resolve their psychological ED. Think of this as a little taster, a way to check it out so that if you like it, you could try their longer version. These are the steps they give. The first step, listen to your inner critic. Let him go off on you in the way he does in those moments where your performance is really getting affected. Just listen to that voice for a few moments. Second step, imagine a second voice, and this is going to be your inner coach. Your inner coach is supportive and strong. He's here to give you confidence. Hear that voice for a moment. Third step, when you hear your inner critic, you imagine what your coach says in response. What comeback perfectly balances or cuts down the critic? It might be really positive, it might be witty, it might be funny, or it might shoot down the critic with just straight up logic and evidence. If you practice that inner coach voice, the idea is you'll be able to call on it whenever you need it. And eventually it'll become automatic and even replace the voice of the inner critic. Psychological ED meditation. When I'm working with clients, there's an idea I always have in mind. The part of the person that's driving the problem isn't doing it because it's bad. It's not doing it because it's evil. It's not doing it because it's stupid. I like to think that there's almost always a positive intention behind every symptom, no matter how extreme it is. So when dealing with inner voice issues, my first move isn't usually to do the Loehr Method, to try to rewrite it, or the Mojo Method of arguing with it. So often, it's a part of the person that's just a little stuck and only feels like there's one way to do things. Some research suggests that the part of us driving our internal dialogue was formed when we were around 4 or 5 years old, and it was often an imitation of an authority figure in our lives. Holy smoke. Think of it like an operating system in a computer. If you were trying to accomplish something and running code that you wrote when you were 5 years old, how well do you think that would go? So let's see if we might be able to help you update some of that old software without running into the resistance that you can sometimes get with more straightforward ways of trying to get it to change. I'm going to assume for the sake of this video that your responses run along the lines of most of the guys I've worked with for issues like this. If they're not, no worries. Just stop there, maybe return to one of the other approaches I talked about, or one of the other videos I've done. Or, better yet, contact someone who can take you through this kind of a meditation live. It's best done with your eyes closed, seated or lying comfortably. I'm going to be asking you to ask yourselves some questions. I'll leave some pauses, but if you need some more time, don't hesitate to hit the pause button. And pause here if you want to take a minute to get set up. I'll do a little countdown, then we'll get started. If you haven't already, take a moment to get comfortable. Close your eyes. Take your attention inside and notice what's happening in your body. Noticing any tiny bits of tension on your inhalations. Noticing the tiny bit of relaxation on your exhalations. Letting your attention wander to different places in your body, or maybe noticing that it just settles in one place. It's all good either way. Just allow your attention to rest with what's happening in your body. You don't have to analyze anything or change anything. Nothing special needs to happen. Just taking a few moments to relax and tune in to your body. Now what I'll ask you to do is listen to that voice, that critical inner voice, the one that's negative about sex and your performance. Here's something it would typically say to you. Maybe it's a judgment, maybe it's a prediction, maybe it's a name it calls you. It doesn't matter, just as long as it's something it would typically say in the tone and the volume it usually uses. Once you have it, notice how your body responds to it. Tension, accelerated heartbeat, dropping feeling in the stomach. Those are the kind of things that a lot of guys will describe. Now I'm going to ask you to ask it a question, which might sound kind of weird, the idea of getting curious about it, talking with it. But you've probably been listening to it, so why not? The question I'll ask you to ask it is, what good positive intention do you have in talking to me that way? What good positive intention do you have in talking to me that way? And just wait. See what happens. If you just let it answer for itself, let the answer come back in that voice. And if the answer comes back as nothing, continue to hold the question. It's not doing it because it's dumb or because it's evil. Just wait until you get a sense of what it's trying to accomplish by talking to you that way. And hit pause here if you need to. Take some time with it, that's fine. And once you have it, as weird as it might sound, I'll ask you to say thank you to it. Okay, it's being super negative, but it's doing so for a good reason. Good to know. Now, this is just a guess, but I'm guessing that it's been trying to help you perform better, or something pretty close to that. If that's the case, I'll ask you to ask it a really important question. Does it think that the way it's been trying to help you is actually working? Does it think that the way it's been trying to help you is actually working? Just hold that question. Does it think that the way it's been trying to help you, treating you the way it has been, is actually working? Think about it. And if you can, let that voice answer for itself. If the answer is yes, it feels like it's been working, I'll ask you to imagine showing it the actual effects of what happens when it treats you this way. In your mind, imagine showing it how you feel when it treats you that way. Show it the effects on your body and especially on your erections when it treats you that way. I know this might seem like a strange step, but often the parts of the person driving the problem have been really disconnected from the results of what they've been doing. So continue to show it what the effect of it treating you that way has been until it gets it, until it understands that what it's been doing hasn't been working. Once you get that, no, this isn't working, sense from it, once it understands that it's not working, let it know that we're not going to take that style of communication away from it. If it still wants to be a drill sergeant anytime in the future, it certainly can. It'll always be sort of a tool in the toolbox. And then I'll ask you to ask it, would it like some new tools to help it do its job? Would it like more choices for communicating with you in ways that might help you get some better results? Ask it that question and wait until you get a yes. Would it like some new tools to help it accomplish what it wants to accomplish? Wait till you get a yes. I'm going to assume it says yes, it would be willing to try some new tools. So now, I'll ask you to think about what you'd want to hear from it that would be really helpful in getting that accomplished. What would be really helpful in helping you get better erections, to have good sex? What kind of things would it say? If it were a really caring and skilled coach who was 100% on your side, someone who really wanted to see you succeed, how would it talk to you? What kinds of things would it say to you that would actually help? What kind of tone would it use? What kind of volume would it use? How would it talk to you before sex? What would it say during sex, if anything? What might it say after success? What might it say if things didn't go so well and it really wanted to help you succeed next time? How much might it just be silent? How much might it just be silent? I'll ask you to just play around with that for the next minute or so. Imagine what it would sound like to have an inner voice that really helped you with your sexual game in the healthiest, most positive way possible. And if you're not sure what a voice like that would sound like, just keep it really simple. Just think about a voice that's nice to you. And as you practice that voice a little bit, if you just kind of explore a little bit what it's like to have a voice like this, playing it, notice how your body responds. Notice how your body responds if you just kind of let it explore, showing up a little bit differently. And I'm going to be silent for about a minute while you do that. Great. Now that you have a sense of what an upgraded or better resourced voice sounds like and what it feels like to have an upgraded or better resourced voice, I'll ask you to ask it, would it be willing to try this out? Would it be willing to try some of these new tools, to try some of these new ways of showing up? Would it be willing to give them a go for a day or two, just to see how it goes, knowing we're not taking any of the old tools away, but just to kind of try out the new ones? Would it be willing to try it? Knowing that if it feels good, the brain will probably like that and want to do more of it. Because usually, the more you do it, the better it feels. And the better it feels, the more you want to do it. But if it's anything other than totally okay to explore, even if it feels a bit unfamiliar, you can always go back to the same old, no problem. So ask it now, would it be willing to try this out for a while? You'll probably get a yes here. If so, great. And if the answer is no, and you want to explore it a bit, the next question would be, well, what good positive intention would you have in not wanting to give this a try for a day or two? Feel free to hit pause here if that's the case. But assuming it's a yes, you can take some time to say thank you and let it know that you'll be doing what you can on your side to help it get even better as a coach, as a voice that helps you in this part of your life. You'll be willing to practice with these new skills, and every time it helps you or you help it, taking a moment to just feel good about making some changes in your thinking that will help your body relax, knowing that the more you can help your body relax, the better your erections are going to be. So just taking some time for that, taking some time to let it settle. If there's anything else you want to say to it, or it wants to say to you, taking some time for that. And whenever you're ready, you're welcome to open your eyes again. Okay, guys, just some ideas. A little psychological ED meditation for helping you to help your inner voice become a better...
Hey man, you're doing great. And I've got some really good ideas for how you could be doing even better.
For helping that inner voice become a better coach. I'm Brian Mahoney with psychologicaled.com. I've been helping guys resolve psychological ED issues for over 20 years in my hypnotherapy and coaching practice. If you ever want to talk about working together, this stuff is a lot easier to get solved working live one-on-one. Just give me a call or drop me a note. Otherwise, I hope you have a lot of success in working back towards a really healthy, positive, happy, fun sex life again. Thanks for watching.